Hello and welcome back to Radical Saturday. You may notice that something is off because we've decided to change up the script schedule. So it's going to be mostly me writing, and whenever Blazing's ready, he'll do an episode. So uh,
Eventually.
this episode is yes. So this episode is Tank Off, and this is the second time I recorded it because if you remember, on January 31st, I ranted about how we had scheduling problems so bad it lasted over a week and a half. Uh, and I tried recording it myself, but due to mic issues, and by mic issues I mean it was secretly speaker issues all along, that recording, which was only me, is lost. So, this is the real attempt.
Now, if I may point something out, wait, is that an L3 on the
I'm
right
pretty
side? Is
sure.
that little?
Yes, that is.
I don't think he's gonna win. I'm still rooting for him. This is a These are all real tanks. That's a Renault 17 over here.
Yes, these are all real tanks. They're vaguely supposed to represent some of the tanks from the countries coming up.
Ooh, shadowing.
Yep. But anyways, it's time for news from the front. Canada forms a citizens militia. Alright, so this is news from more mid-December than early January. But basically Canada is massively expanding their reserve forces and adding something they're calling a citizens militia, which is most likely going to work like the US National Guard.
Interesting.
Yeah. There is current concerns about logistical challenges because they're already uh kind of overbeared, and with this massive expansion they're going to be even more overbeared, but I think it's a good move and will probably pay off in the end. You got any comment?
No, that seems like a good idea actually. I don't know much about the National Guard, but
Yeah. They have specifically for the Citizens Militia talked about its more humanitarian aspects, like helping after natural disasters, but they've also said there's going to be drone training. So it's not like it's going to
ooh.
be entirely non-military.
So it's kind of like the Civil Air Patrol. I'm gonna be honest, but for adults.
Kinda? Yeah.
That's what it seems like.
Also,
Up to now.
yeah. If anyone from the Canadian government is watching, I recommend that you do a partnership with Katimovic like you used to do with the reserves. And it's like, hey, optionally during Katimovic, you can sign up for like 3 months of Citizens Militia. Or like you can join the Citizens Militia or something. I think that would massively help recruitment numbers. Not that you need help because there seems to be a lot of support. Any final comment?
No, they were good. Interesting stuff though. Well,
Oh no, I didn't want to get uh this political this early on, as I wanted this to be mostly uh unrelated to politics, but Jesus, what the is this piece of this is
this is a very interesting looking boat.
this is the Trump class, which it's it's the antithesis to modern navies. Uh this is there's only one way this could end up, and it's as America's Kuznetsov.
Oh, what's that? Is that like a?
This
Is it an
is a
aircraft carrier with like a curved up ramp so they can take off faster? Is that what it is?
uh this is the Kuznetsov, a Russian aircraft carrier famous for its maintenance so bad that people have legitimately made SCPs based off of it. There's sealed off floors, there's leaks. Even though I put a filter on, you can still see the massive plume of black smoke coming off the funnel. Talk about operational stealth. You-
No one's seeing that coming unless you're within 5 miles, or maybe
No, everyone's going to
like
see it coming.
50. Exactly. I was trying to come up with a bigger number, but then 5.
It's the only
Also,
way this
is
could
this
turn out good is if
oh,
we the only way this could turn out good is if we use it more to build more naval shipyards because we need more, and more it's like a technology demonstrator to get things like railguns figured out.
honestly, it's giving me like P1000 vibes, like the rat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has some of like the
Uh,
similar geometry.
I want to quickly explain why this is a bad idea in the most simple way possible. One sec. Alright. I'm back. So, modern naval warfare is you get a lot of small, like, medium cost ships uh, with a lot of high quality cruise missiles and fire it. Because it's hard to tell what you're firing at if there's a bunch of small dots and if there's a million coming to swarm you. But the thing here is, well, let's say you are on a naval radar and you see a couple small dots and one very big dot. You're going to fire everything at the one very big dot. That one very big dot is going to die. And then, whoops, that's all your eggs, and your basket is gone. I could rant all day about this and like how they canceled the constellation for this, which it was a good thing they canceled it, but they should have restarted it with a yeah, it's a whole big deal. I recommend you look up videos by more professional people like Laserpig, talking about this more in depth than I ever could in this brief news segment. But let's talk about something less incompetent. Uh, down with the Ayatollah, there have been, for a couple weeks, mass Iranian protests, uh, started over a whole lot of stuff, really. But the big one is their currency, the rial, is absolutely worthless. I believe it's like, I can't remember if it was a million or I think it was like a billion rial to $1. I'm gonna look up the current exchange rate. One sec.
That's a lot.
Around. Oh yeah, here. Uh, All right. Uh, the current exchange rate, according to Google, is just under a million rial to $1.
That's a big number right there.
Yeah. I've been following this religiously since day one. Well, technically day two. But I could make a whole episode about this. That's how much I've been just steeped in this.
Look at things are going south pretty fast here. Picture.
45 protesters are already dead, along with at least one security force member.
Well, that's escalated very fast by the looks of it.
Yeah, but uh, before I turn this entire video into what I like to call the counter-Iranian revolution, let's get on with the actual video.
Ooh, a
So,
tier list.
yes, that's how I'm formatting this. How do World War II tanks compare between nations? How confident am I in these rankings? And What about more minor nations who may have not been as big or major? How are we going to rank this? How are we going to determine this? Well, I have criteria, and here they are. First, I'm going to primarily be talking about vehicles they built and designed, although I won't rule out modified vehicles or foreign imports. This is going to be exclusively during World War II, and I'm more going to be talking about the country's average tank performance. So if they had a bunch of bad vehicles and then one really good one, you'll rank lower, or if they had a bunch of good vehicles and then like one really bad one, they'll rank higher. I'm both
Seems
talking
fair.
about major. What?
Seems fair.
Yeah. I'm talking about both major and minor nations, mainly to boost, mainly because it took so long to actually get this set up. I just kept adding nations, and I feel like I've got basically all of them. And I'm going to be ranking it using the grain of salt meter. If it has one salt, I'm fairly confident. If it has two salts, there's room for error. You could probably rank it like one higher or lower, and it would be about right still. Three is unconfident. There's only two in this category, and if I rank it a three, it could really go anywhere. I just don't know enough to say. So this is my best guess, but if I threw a dart, it would probably be more accurate. So let's start with the first ranking. Left here, we have Italy and China, with one salt and two salts, respectively. Blazing, are you there?
Yeah. I think I know enough about Italy's tanks to agree with that, but I don't know much on China's tanks.
Then you know a lot about Chinese tanks.
I do. Yeah.
This is the Fiat 2000. This is a post World War One Italian interwar design. Uh, it had 8 machine guns. Although I think this may have no, this was a it had 7 machine guns because that's a cannon in that turret. It just pointed away. And this is Italy's first true domestic tank. Now, uh, if you go to this map of Italy here, please point to where they fought World War One.
Oh, like, I don't know, up here maybe?
We can't see you, so I'm going to assume you
Yeah.
said about here, and you would be correct, as all these nations over here, roughly, were united as Austria-Hungary. And they're what Italy fought during the war, right here. Do you want to know what right here looks like?
What?
This.
Whoa. This, AliExpress version of the Strumppanzerwagen is not navigating that terrain.
I'd like to see you drive anything larger than a Fiat 2000 through here successfully.
Yeah. I don't think even this abomination on the left could drive through that.
Yeah, the Fiat 2000 is actually kind of big.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
let's jump to World War II.
these look like off-brand BT7s.
Uh, I forgot what they're actually called, and I really should have looked it up and put it in the script, which you now have. But I believe these are Auto Blinda armored cars. Please fact check that. Uh, they had autocannons, machine guns, and like also a rear machine gun with a rear driver for escapes. And these would have been pretty decent for mountain warfare. Mountain warfare. Does that look like a mountain to you?
No.
This is where Italy fought for most of the war. North Africa. Uh,
It's like a desert, isn't it?
yes, it is a desert. So
Yeah, that's what I
small
thought.
tanks and tankettes for mountains don't really perform that well in the desert. Unfortunately for Italy, it didn't have a very good industrial base, so it couldn't adjust to this new type of warfare in time like, for example, Germany could if they were in the same situation. No comment?
No comments yet.
Do you want to know what these mainly fought?
What did they fight? I can't tell from looking at them.
This is
Oh,
the
that's a
Matilda
Tetrarch.
II.
Oh, Matilda.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
the Matilda II infantry tank. It was impervious, not resistant, impervious to most Italian guns with 60 millimeters of armor and a fast-firing 2-pounder anti-tank gun. This is a very common tank to see in North Africa uh, during the beginning half of the war.
Well, I know
And
who I'm
having your
betting on in
best
that
tank,
fight.
yeah, and having your best tanks be unable to penetrate an early war British, basically heavy, that's not good. And then the Allies invaded Italy, and then Italy fell. And then they mostly used Western designs, but like, I'm ignoring that. So, yeah, this is why Italy's an F tier.
What about China? Or is China not coming up yet?
This is Chinese tanks.
Looks like a Windows screensaver.
This is the Windows XP background. I've used it before. Okay,
I knew it
I
was
do
familiar.
tell I do tell a little bit of a lie. They did have some like pre-war import tanks. This is the Vickers Mark E. It got absolutely demolished by Japanese tanks. They did use some Japanese tanks. This is a pretty famous Japanese uh Chihakai, I think it is. Uh don't actually doesn't actually say what this is specifically. But this was famously used by the nationalists and then later captured and used by the communists during the Chinese Civil War. It's a very famous Chinese tank that I know basically nothing on. And they did
Oh,
have some
Sherman.
access to Lend-Lease. They didn't have access to much because basically they lost their entire coastline and the Burma Road, so they mostly had to. They didn't really have a lot of options besides like maybe the Soviets to get them. But as you could tell, this is not the most prime selection of tanks, and they're also in extremely limited quantities.
It's not ideal, I suppose.
Are you familiar with the movie Enemy at the Gates?
Not quite.
There's a famous line from the movie that basically goes, uh, one man has a rifle, another man has the ammunition. When the first man is shot, the second man picks up the rifle and loads it. And then, the Soviet attrition and supply never got that bad. That would have been a dream for forces fighting for China in the Chinese front. It got that bad.
Well,
It's time for D tier. Reveal Japan and Hungary with 2 salts and 3 salts, respectively.
I didn't know Hungary even made tanks.
Yeah, this is, besides maybe China, the first obscure country we got here. But let's start with Japan. So you remember China, right?
Yep.
How they basically had nothing?
Yep.
So that's what they planned around.
Ah,
This is the Hago, and it's not actually that bad.
it
In
looked
context,
interesting, to say the least.
it is a 3-man light tank. It has a cannon and a machine gun. If the crew chose, they could rotate the turret and use the. It's a 1-man turret, by the way. And they could use
Ah,
the machine gun and have that pointing forwards instead. Had a driver,
interesting.
hull gunner, and commander gunner. But this thing was really meant to fight uh, Chinese. Uh, so it had armor so weak it could be defeated by HE mortars. Yeah. But it was only really intended to fight against people with sometimes literally just sticks. It was also meant to remote or it was also meant to operate on small remote islands like Iwo Jima. So it couldn't be that big anyways.
Makes
And
sense.
the biggest factor for this is the inter-service rivalry between the Army and the Navy. You see, metal was prioritized, uh, aluminum, I should clarify, or steel. I keep getting that. Metal was prioritized to the Navy to build ships, then to the Air Force to build planes. So tanks were really low down the pecking pole. So it's like you could have 5 tanks, or you could have one half decent one.
Yeah, I see what you mean there.
Yeah.
This tank doesn't look like it was that bad for what it was meant to do, at least. For anything else, it looks like it might have been kind of buns.
Yeah. Yeah. This tank famously could not effectively fight a BT-5. Or BT-7, sorry.
Ooh.
A tank which did famously bad on the Eastern Front of World War II. And it couldn't pen
And in
that.
War Thunder. Oh my. Ooh. Ah, ooh. If I just couldn't
So,
fight it properly, but not even be able to pen it is kind of bad.
yeah. Uh, so this thing easily got bodied by the M3A1 Stewart.
Ooh.
You thought I was gonna say Sherman, didn't you? Here's a better
Feeling.
view of the Stewart. This thing was small, so it could operate in places where the Sherman couldn't be. Uh, it was basically everything the Hago wanted to be, except better. It was a light tank that was good at fighting infantry, and it was uh really hard for Japanese tanks to pen.
It is kind of ugly, though. Not a fan of how
Also,
that hull looks.
you know that misconception on the Western Front that took 5 Shermans to take out a Tiger?
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
That is not true on the Western Front, but it is on the Pacific, because Hagos could not frontally pen a Sherman, so at the flank.
Well, the thing about
So,
Sherman, you always have to flank it because the ammo's on the sides and it's all flat on the sides.
I know, but it's In tank battles, especially during this period, it's generally who shoots first wins. So having to get to the side is a big detriment.
Mm, that's either the image it's stretched, or this is a big goofy tank.
It's stretched. I stretched
Okay.
the image. This is the Turan 2, used by Hungary during the Second World War. Like I said, I know basically nothing about Hungarian tanks, but basically, Skoda made like this tank, but the Czechs didn't want it, but Hungary bought it, and then made their own signs and like modified it mainly because they built their own tanks because Germany didn't give them enough. I could go through like whole German wartime tank logistics, but I won't. I don't think it performed that well. I think it was worse than a Panzer IV generally. But there is actually one other Hungarian tank in this picture. Can you please try and identify it?
Is it that tiny blurry one in the back that I cannot identify because it looks like a tiny Panzerwagen?
Left or right?
Huh? On the
Left or
right,
right?
left or right. That
Correct.
yeah, that one back there.
That
Hmm?
is the Zinri 1, I think. Uh, this is basically taking this tank, but then modifying it to basically be a knockoff Stug. Apparently it didn't really perform that well. If you're fighting on the Eastern Front, generally you want your tanks to be able to be at least on par with the T-34.
It's a
And
fairly high standard there because the T-34 was pretty decent, except for mechanical reliability
we'll
and
cross
temper.
that bridge when we get there. Uh, there's also the Toldi, which is based off, whatchamacallit, the Landswerk L60, uh, just modified for Hungarian use in production. I know basically, I know even less about that vehicle than the Turan and Zinri. And Sweden is on this list, spoilers, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there too. Alright, reveal C tier: France, Poland, the USSR, Sweden, and New Zealand, with 2 salts, 1 salt, 2 salts, 3 salts, and 2 salts respectively.
I can see France, but I'm having trouble seeing the middle three, and I know nothing about New Zealand tanks, so
New Zealand doesn't deserve to be this high. New Zealand deserves to be an F tier, but got carried to C.
what carried him there? Guess we'll find out when we get there.
Can you
Oh,
identify this
alright.
tank?
That's a Renault 17, right?
Yes, this is an FT-17, and it is the best tank that saw service in World War One. It was every single tank of the modern era can directly trace its lineage to this tank. It had a rotating turret. Uh, it was small. It was light. It was good. Great job.
And compact.
Yor did it.
He
Get a
deserves it.
medal. But that was like what? Over 2 decades ago? Let's see how they've fared since. This is the Somme 35. This is a French cavalry tank, and in some ways, this was better than contemporary German designs. There is a bit of debate going back and forth about whether contemporary Germans or like the Somme slash French tanks are better
Uh,
or not.
I've
Uh,
heard about this one.
yeah, but there
Had
is
a few minor
one,
problems. It was pretty good, right?
yeah, but there is one glaring problem with it. Can you please point verbally, because we can't see your finger, to the problem?
Is it the horrible shot trap around the entire turret? Or is it something else, even worse?
Oh no, it's even worse.
Oh my gosh. Is it the
If this was high
tiny
enough quality,
cannon?
I recommend you read. If this was high enough quality to read that, that would give you a pretty big hint.
Oh no, is it a two-man crew?
I think it's 3-man,
Oh. Is it
but
worse,
you're on the
though?
right track.
Was it
Let
a
me give you a
one-man
hint.
turret?
1-man turret. So, a 1-man turret in
Oh no.
1940. That commander is
Oh
getting
gosh.
severely overworked.
Ooh.
Yeah. France actually had a little bit more tanks than Germany by the start, too, by the way. Just wanted to bring that up. But let's talk about how they used their tanks, because this is where the problems actually lie.
That's what it really comes down to in the end, how you use the tanks.
This is how Germany used its tanks, often called blitzkrieg. Basically, they get all their tanks, they bunch them up, and they punch through enemy lines.
Now, what's
These are,
France do?
before I go on, I believe these are Panzer IIIBs. This is what France does. They have their tanks spread out, so that was generally one tank for a pretty large space. It's like you have one tank, you go wise, and then you find another singular tank. Would you like to point out the second problem with this image of French tank tactics?
Is that a Renault 17?
Yes, yes it is. They were using FT-17s as late as the fall of France in active frontline service.
They could not let go of the past.
Yeah. So sometimes you're in your Panzer and you come across one Samwa S35. And sometimes you come across one FT-17 in 1940.
We might as well just start, I don't know, emoting on it. Just hop out of your tank and start flexing on it, because it probably can't do anything about it.
Yeah. But before I go on, I would like to mention this. Can you identify
Looks
this
like a,
vehicle?
it looks like a tank destroyer of some sort, and it doesn't look too terrible, but I haven't seen it before.
This is the ARL-44. After the liberation of Paris, France realized it needed a tank that wasn't just whatever Panthers were lying around. And so they created a heavy tank based off of all the technology they could have at the time. It had a Panther engine, it had pre-war suspension based off the Char 2C, it had a pretty decent anti-tank gun actually, I think.
Sure looks
Uh,
like it.
for being the first modern French tank, it wasn't the worst first attempt, but it didn't really see service during World War II, uh, despite technically being of the period and developed during the period, and was replaced by, I believe, the AMX-30 once they actually got good and stopped being, oh, we're just barely not dead after being dead.
Yeah, they were kind of selling there.
They were also dead for most of the war, so that's another reason why they're so low.
Maybe that if they had some better tanks or at least better tank tactics, they wouldn't have gotten double cheek up collapsed by the Germans in like 5 seconds.
You want to know someone who had it
Oh,
even worse?
what the heck are are these the Polish tanks?
Welcome to Poland, who got invaded by the Soviets from behind and only lasted 8 months, but they before that they were actually doing a decent job of holding off the Germans, for the record.
These look like someone tried to turn the L3 into a good tank and then just
And they
failed
succeeded.
miserably.
No, they succeeded.
Really? These are good?
Yes, because in video games, tank games specifically, there's the concept of the rat, a small, fast vehicle that you do for really cheesy ambushes.
I haven't heard of it, but I think I heard it mentioned a few years ago.
This is the real life equivalent to great effect.
Oh,
This is the TKS, the worst of the two options. It was equipped with a machine gun or 20 mil autocannon. Maybe it was 30. I'm pretty sure it was 20. It struggled to pen armor, but besides that was actually quite decent. Basically, the pinnacle of designs based off the uh, I forgot what it was called, but in Soviet service it was called the T-27. Uh, but it was originally a British design by Vickers. And this is one of the best tanks in the world at the time. This is the 7TP, the pinnacle, besides maybe the T-26, the pinnacle of designs based off the Vickers 6-ton. And it was superior to a lot of German armor at the time.
does look a bit like an off-brand T26 that they rushed. But maybe there's more in store than just how it looks.
Yeah. Uh, Basically, this is a Polish modified Vickers 6-ton, like I said, and they did a really good job. They also had other upgrades planned, like the 9TP, and they were also working on a tank based off the Christie tank, the
Ooh.
Christie suspension, called the 10TP. I've also heard of 14TP being floated around on the internet sometimes, but I'm not really sure about how real the 14TP is.
Did they finish the one inspired by the Christie?
I think they got it partially done, but never entered service.
Because the Christie tank was actually a pretty cool tank idea. I wish they did more with that, besides just the BT tanks, pretty much.
Some countries, more specifically the UK, did actually do more with that design. I'm going to introduce you some tanks that are based off that later.
Yay.
The Soviets did, or sorry, the Polish did actually use some Soviet tanks when they reclaimed Poland, although it would be more accurate to say under new management Poland.
Because they became communist after that, right?
Yeah, but ultimately, especially for how long they lasted, very respectable C tier. Here's the part where the
Ah,
comments destroy me.
that's the T26 with a weird bulge on it.
Yeah, I have no idea what that bulge is, but this is the T-26, and guess what tank this is?
That's a BT5 or 7. I can't properly tell from this angle. I
It's a
guess it's more like
7
a
or
BT
maybe a 7.
7.
It's a 7 or maybe a 7M. And what is this
It looks.
tank?
Oh, no, I know that way too well. That is my boy, the T28, which is sucks.
All these vehicles sucked. All of them.
Unless you're in War Thunder. War Thunder, the T26 is way overpowered, but besides that, they sucked. In real life, I bet they were horrendous.
Yeah, these were the bulk of Soviet armor during the beginning of the war, Operation Barbarossa, and they they didn't withhold. They got destroyed by Panzer III's, Panzer IV's, Stug 3's, whatchamacallit, uh, Panzer 38T's, and other vehicles which I cannot remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, they were great. But they eventually cleaned up their act when they started with the KVs and the IS tanks and all that.
Speaking of, these aren't the only tanks in Soviet service. Introducing the T-34 41. I'm using the Soviet definition, the Soviet classification, not the German one. If you use the German one, then this is a T-34.
76.
Yeah, 76. This is a
My boy, the KV-1, my favorite tank.
just ignore that BT-5 in the background, and this is everybody's favorite Russian death fridge, the KV-2.
So how cold can that one go? Because I want to see if I can put my chicken nuggets in there. 'Cause I don't want them to go bad.
Depends on how far north you drive it. If you drive too far north, though, you will encounter the Finns and you will die. We don't like the Finns. They keep destroying our because we're communists.
It's,
Uh,
we'll stay in Krasnark.
yeah. But these were really good vehicles. At
It's nice
least
ergonomics.
there are problems with them, but I'll get to that in the next slide. Primarily you. I'll get to you. Uh, yeah, but these were basically invulnerable to German vehicles, and uh, basically made the Germans poo themselves.
Hmm.
Luckily, they didn't have to poo themselves that hard, as Soviet logistics existed, and by existed, I mean doesn't exist.
And Soviet
So
transmissions.
it's like, wow, you have all 3 drops of fuel and -2 shells.
Hmm.
Hey, look, everyone, it's Comrade Stalin! Comrade Stalin, what
And
order do you have for us? What? No, Comrade Stalin, we're not going to throw all the production value down the toilet. Comrade Stalin, no. Stalin, no! And there goes the production quality. Whoops.
yeah.
So, Soviet tanks were getting killed uh, so fast, and there was such a high demand that they basically built it to the lowest quality they could and just shipped it out there because their lifespan wouldn't really be long enough for it to matter, which also kind of exacerbated the problem, but we're not here to talk about that. Uh, I do think it eventually starts getting better, though, but don't quote me on that. I know at least I think the post-war ones were better, which are actually I think most modern T-34s are post-war ones. But let's go to now the modern times, aka the end of World War II, because we don't acknowledge history past 1945. Ignore the news from the front from earlier this episode.
Hmm.
I'm going to swap back to the German definition for the T-34s for this because unfortunately I don't know the Russian ones well enough. This is a T-34
T-34
85.
85. Jinx.
Basically, T-34 with a bigger turret, so it didn't have all the problems from having such a small turret, and with a more powerful anti-tank gun. I believe it was this tank which uh was tested in the US. And what they found is that if produced to American production quality, it would have been worse than the Sherman in almost all regards besides gun.
Especially, well, I guess not transmission because it's American quality, but I bet the transmission wasn't looking too good.
Bring out the hammer! If you wanted to get anything higher than fourth, who's that Pokemon? It depends on how you pronounce Stalin's name.
The IS or JS1, which looks
How
very,
how
very
do you pronounce
similar
his
to
name?
the
How,
234.
no, I'm threatening you now. How do you pronounce his name?
Joseph Stalin.
Alright. To
No joke.
explain to you why I just almost sent my co-host to the gulag, is because this tank name technically depends on how you produce, or not produce, pronounces Stalin's first name. If you do the standard English pronunciation of Joseph Stalin, which is what I usually call it, this tank is a JS2. If you use the Russian pronounce, or not, if you pronounce it like Joseph Stalin, like my co-host just did, that is more accurate to the Russian pronunciation, and you would call it an IS2. I take the hermaphrodite approach and call this an IS2, but call him Joseph Stalin.
Yeah, I think I do the same thing.
But hey, look, it's it's Lend-Lease. Yeah, the
Ah.
Soviet Union used a lot of foreign tanks through the Lend-Lease program. This is a Sherman, and this is a Valentine. Uh, do you want to know a fun fact that'll get the Russians in this comment section very upset at me?
What?
10% of all tanks during the defense of Moscow were British.
Huh. Wait a minute. Hold on. You picked a really bad picture of that British tank.
This is a Valentine. And I have no
Yeah.
idea what you're talking about. It just says response with a cool image.
Yeah.
Uh most of them were Valentines, but uh there were also some Matildas. Both of them were
Where
praised for
were
their.
Valentine's? Were Valentine's just like off-brand Matilda 2s, basically?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Uh but basically, uh British tanks were praised for their armor, but minorly criticized for their slow speed, and kinda majorly criticized for their gun. But you hear that? United Nations on march with. Hold on 1 second, I'm getting a call. Sorry, that was a phone call about a family medical emergency. No, I will not share details to the internet. Now, where were we? Ah, yes. Listen, listen. I don't remember the rest of the lyrics of the song. But yeah, winning World War II was a united front. It took all of these nations to win, and just saying it was this one right over here would be underselling the efforts of all of them right here. Are you still with me?
That's a
Blazing?
lot of flags.
Yeah,
I have a feeling the Axis were slightly outnumbered by the Allies.
majorly.
Yeah, that was. Whoa! Wait, that's a Swedish tank.
Yes. You should
Hey,
have
they gotta
saved
be
that
careful of those
react.
numbers.
You're supposed to save that reaction to when we get to New Zealand. Uh, anyways, this is the Landsverk L60. Uh,
Look, Sweden was fairly good back then, right?
I'm very intentionally holding comment because I don't have comment.
Oh, oh, wasn't this one a 3 salt?
I know even less about Swedish tanks than Hungarian. The only tank that Sweden uses that I have any knowledge on is the STRV 103 and like maybe some of their like modern IFVs, but like basically nothing.
I don't.
I bel
All I really know is the STRV 103 as well. It's pretty iconic though.
it's from what I know, I think it was like outdated uh in like the mid-war. Anyways, let's talk about something I actually know about.
Ah!
Thank you. This is the Bob Simple.
Oh no, not the Bob Sample tank.
It is a tractor with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 machine guns added onto it, with the top being in a turret. It was originally supposed to be a 2-pounder, but they couldn't get enough in time. So it's a machine gun.
This looks like what happens to your heart after you eat McDonald's.
It's also the worst tank of the war.
It
No
looks like
armor,
it.
no speed, no gun. At least it's reliable because it's on a commercial tractor chassis.
Bet the L3 could beat this thing in a 1v1 and wouldn't even be close.
You want to know the only thing keeping this from F tier?
What?
I decided to check if New Zealand used any other vehicles, and they used Lend-Lease vehicles. They had M3A1s, they had Shermans, they had Valentines. Heck, they even operated a few Sherman Fireflies, which we'll get to very soon. So,
Take the Sherman back.
Lend-Lease is the only reason they're not in F tier.
They got carried.
Hard carried. It's time for B tier. We have the UK, Germany, Finland, New Zealand, and not New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. I'm going to get flamed in the comments for having Germany this low. Anyways, with 1 salt, 2 salt, 2 salt, and 2 salt respectively.
Didn't know Finland even made tanks either.
Kinda.
Did they make more Bob Sample tanks?
Uh, I think the best way to describe British tanks in the early war period is by this SpongeBob meme. So, uh, do you mind being the yellow fish?
Okay. This is awkward. You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you got your sick kicks?
Oh, it's just an ordinary French. Oh my goodness! Ministry of Defense! This is Dunkirk. Basically, Britain lost everything except the men themselves. It was a horrible disaster.
What's happening in the picture? Because honestly, from this angle and with no background information, I really can't tell.
Those are people
A lot of them.
on a beach as the French are desperately dying to basically give them enough time to hop on ships and hightail it out of there.
Oh,
I own a movie about this. But basically, Britain had to rebuild everything from scratch. So they decided to build it better. This is basically uh, the entire mantra behind their tank fleet. And it turned out to be kind of a mixed bag. Let's see how many of these tanks do you know. What is this?
the one bottom left? That is a Matilda 2.
Correct, we saw this earlier.
Yeah. That is a Valentine. Good job censoring that.
Thank you. You
That's
also
the
should
Churchill.
recognize this because earlier in the slide. This is
That's a Churchill.
what kind of Churchill?
An ugly one.
Boy and 7. It's a Churchill 7. And this?
And that's one of those goofy cruiser tanks that they use that looked like a trapezoid. There's so many of those, it's hard to tell.
This is the Cruiser 4, a Christie suspension tank.
Yeah, I think I'm betting on the Russian suspensions next time. This one just looks like an AliExpress version of a BT7, and they've had it at McDonald's.
Boy. Also, the Russian one, they share the same suspension, but the Russian one was better because of its engine, because it had a better engine.
And it looked a lot less ugly than whatever that is.
It was effective. But this is a real mixed bag. You have tanks which were good in early war, but phased out over time. You have pretty decent vehicles. A whole mixed bag here, which is a real theme with British tanks. Especially because where their designs do fail, they had the US to fill in the gaps. So, a lot of Shermans. Hang on. My unicorn horn I totally didn't steal from Pomni is picking up a Soviet signal. And it says we've already found the best tank of the war? But what could that be? My god, it's perfect. The the gun, the the base, it even has a watermark. This everyone is the Sherman Firefly.
I don't think I've heard of this one.
Excuse-moi?
Yeah, I haven't heard of this one.
Let me enlighten you live on camera after I quickly mute my mic to cough. So, can you identify this gun?
Is it like a 75 millimeter or something a little bit bigger? It's a bit long for World War II, though.
This is the British 17 pounder, One of the best anti-tank guns of the entire war. Can you identify this?
Like, circle it again? Just like the regular Sherman hull and turret.
Yeah, this is a normal Sherman.
Did they up armor the sides a little bit at least?
No, although some of them were made on composite Shermans, which were a cast hull, front cut off and then replace the front of a Sherman like this is front, but that's a story for another day. But this was mainly used more as like a sniper tank. They had to make the gun fit, they had to like rotate it, not full sideways like the meme says. They had to cut in a hole in the back of the turret for a radio, and they had to remove the hull machine gun, which wasn't really that big of a deal, so they could put ammo in the hull, extra ammo in the hull, because it was too big.
If
And
you're a
this,
sniper tank, then you'll be fine, but
yeah,
yeah, that might
this,
make you catch fire easily.
if you know what the Leopard 1s are doing in Ukraine, this is basically the pinnacle of that concept. Except if it somehow theoretically got into like a melee brawl, it could also win that too.
Melee tank? Did it have like a tank bayonet on it or something?
No, I meant like close quarters, like urban.
Oh. Because I was gonna say, I don't see like a club on it or anything.
I mean, you could probably roll over some infantry with it.
True. Maybe not another tank unless it's in all three.
Anyways, it's time for Germany. I've played these games before.
Oh
I
no.
recognize this.
No, not again. Look at the. Is that a KW one or a KV one? I can't tell. And also, not again.
If you saw my last video, you recognize this slide almost one for one. But this time, I'm going to tell the story, but go in a different direction, as I feel like this is a pretty decent summary of German heavy tanks and, German, and, could also be used as like a decent metaphor for all German armor. Can you remember what the name
Yeah.
of this tank is?
Is that
Can
like
you?
Nebuchadnezzar or something like that? I've seen it before. I
No,
forgot about it,
no,
but
no, it's
it's
not. This is the Neberfahrzeug.
yeah, that. It's Neba something. Not
Hey,
greatly named.
can you recognize this tank though?
It looks like an Amazon box with a Western transmission in the front.
This is a Panzer
Like
1B.
Panzer One.
That's a machine gun
Oh,
right there.
command version, right? The
I
command
know
version
next
or
to
the
nothing about
turretless
the
version?
Panzer 1B besides it exists and that's what it looks like.
Looks likely.
Anyways, to basically speedrun this slide because I've done it before, except with work-wise quality. This is the Neberfahrzeug. This is Germany's first heavy tank. It was only really used in Norway. And wasn't really that good, mainly used just for propaganda effect. It had two main guns, one made for anti-tank, one made for anti-infantry. This is the KV-1. This is a Soviet heavy tank, which we already talked about. It scared the Germans so bad that they decided to put out a program, which put out one of their greatest and their worst tank. This is the Henschel, entry into the program. This is the Tiger 1, a pretty decent heavy tank design, especially for the period. And this
Oh
is the
no.
Tiger P made by Porsche, also sometimes called the Porsche Tiger.
Oh, Ferdinand Porsche, what are you doing?
Last time, I talked about its engine and how it got captured by the Soviets and is currently in use in their current main battle tank. Go check out the previous video All I will warn you about is that it does have mic quality that is significantly worse. If you want to learn about this engine, what about this? What happened to this? What do you mean?
Uh,
It's the worst tank that actually saw combat in the entire war. What
wait,
did
they
it
actually used
turn
that thing?
into?
Yeah,
Oh God, it's hideous. This this is the
is the
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand.
Later upgraded into the Elephant, which was even worse.
So it basically just downgraded it.
Yeah, it's basically, hey, let's turn this tank, which main problem was that it was too heavy and had an unreliable transmission, and add more armor and weight to it. And then let's do it again. It was awful. It couldn't even climb a hill to get into a good position.
I have a joke about this on my mug. That's how bad this tank was for the viewers.
But I want to also have an anti-shoutout. Do you want to guess what the anti-shoutout is?
What is it?
Yes. It won't be stupid enough.
I don't know what an anti-shoutout is in the first place.
It's like a shoutout, but you don't want to be shouted out.
So what is it? World of Tanks? Or something?
This is the
Wow.
Erstagstug 3. The Estaz project was basically Germany trying to create friendly fire incidents in Allied lines by sending in English-speaking German soldiers in American uniforms with American vehicles. They didn't have enough vehicles though, so they first made some Panthers and disguised them as M10s,
Oh
which
yeah.
wasn't effective.
Maybe if they
And
had open
then
top Panthers.
they didn't make it open top.
Exactly. Probably why it didn't work too well.
Yeah. But what if you take that to its most anti-logical extreme?
Taking the most like one of the most iconic German tanks, sticking some stars drawn by a precayer, and passing it as an American tank?
Do you want to know what the big problem with this is? And you can probably guess it very easily.
It looks not like an American tank whatsoever.
There are no American vehicles anywhere near any of where these were deployed that even remotely looked like this.
Yeah, I don't know who's falling for that.
It's like if you went to a non-alcoholic party and you saw someone drinking what very clearly was tequila, and they're like, "Oh no, this isn't tequila. This is Sprite." But all the drinks at the party were Fanta, Coca-Cola, and sweet tea. None of those look like Sprite. None of them are at the party. You snuck tequila into this no alcohol party. But I feel like
Pretty good
Germany
analogy.
perfectly emphasizes the duality of man. As well, you have failures like this. At the exact same time, this was also being in service.
Hey,
This is the
Jagdpanzer?
Hetzer.
Hetzer. That was a Jagdpanzer.
No, this is a Hetzer. It basically took a lot of it took a lot of parts from the Panzer 38T and made it into a tank destroyer. And a really good one at that. It had thick armor, it was small, good for ambushes, had a decent gun. It was really good. So good that Switzerland used it post-war, and that's where most Hetzers actually come from. Hetzer's great. But there are also other good German tanks, like the Panzer IV.
T-34 was like the German Sherman, basically, right?
Basically, except slightly worse. And better during the early war, but like kind of fell off post-war. You can easily recognize this, even with the bushes.
That's the
This is
Stuke 3.
the most produced German tank of the war. And it wasn't a tank, it was an artillery vehicle according to their classifications, but it's a tank destroyer, basically. And can you recognize this
That's
vehicle?
that's a T-34-85. Did the Germans copy that one
Nope,
too?
nope, no, it's not. No, it's not. Until very recently, this tank was assumed to be completely fake.
Uh-oh. Is it a German copy of another Russian tank like the KW-1, the KW-2?
No, this is a real KV-1 captured, or not KV-1.
Oh.
This is a real T-34 used by the Germans, and that was captured and used in the Courland pocket, uh, because basically it was isolated from the rest of the German war front, and so primarily used stolen Soviet T-34s. Look at the barrel for your hint.
T-34-85, right?
No, look here for your biggest hint.
Wait, they shrunk the gun, it looks like.
This is the T-34-88.
88?
Yes, they modified the gun, basically did some boring and stuff, to take 88 millimeter anti-aircraft shells, which are the same as 88 millimeter anti-tank shells, basically. This tank was assumed to be fake for a very long time, until recent documents, and this, which is a screenshot I took from a German newsreel, proved that it was real. Stunned silence?
Yep.
Before we move on, I'd like to stun your silence even more, as during this whole fiasco, it was unveiled that there wasn't just a T-34-88, but an Su-88 as well. Welcome to Finland! We're killing Soviets! Also, I had to censor this, so that's why it looks weird.
Tank just looks weird normally, though.
You can identify it though, right? Oh wait, you haven't seen Gerlund Panzer yet.
I know what tank that is, though. I played an off-brand War Thunder, and that was one of the tanks in the game. I don't know what it's called, though, but it's like something 42, I think. Or 45.
This is the BT-42.
I knew it. Wait, BT? Isn't that a Russian designation?
Look at the hull.
Is it literally just a BT-5 hull? With a giant
BT-7.
barrel, BT-7? But with a
It is,
giant turret strap on it?
and to basically explain this in the most convoluted way possible, it is an American suspension on a Soviet tank equipped with a British howitzer, captured and then modified with the turret by the Finns.
Maybe that's why it looks so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that is why it looks so weird. Basically, the goal of the tank was to drive up, use its howitzer to attack bunker emplacements, and then drive away really quickly. It was successful in that role, but it also had to deal with a lot of T-34s. And even with heat rounds, it couldn't really deal with T-34s. So it's like, if it's for bunker busting, it's good. If it is for attacking T-34s, it's bad, but that's not really what it was designed for. You recognize this, though, right?
It looks like a tank destroyer of some sort, but I can't exactly say. Is that a Stuke 3 or is that not a Stuke 3? Or
This is a
Stuke of any
Stuke
sort?
3, but there's been 2 modifications made to it, and no, it's not the Zimrit. Can you please tell me the two finished modifications to this vehicle?
They strapped a Clash Royale card to the side. Now there's logs on it.
Log armor that could also be used to help it get unstuck, that's one.
And there's that little shield in the back. The bullet shield for
Nope,
the commander's cupola.
that machine gun shield is on the original. There's something significantly more obvious you're missing.
What is it? The turret cheeks?
They added extra concrete armor.
Concrete.
Concrete.
I don't think that gives you a good protection to weight ratio there.
Uh, they also used Panzer IVs, but that is not in this image. The main reason why they're up here, because these ranged from mid to decent, was more of their, absolute domination when it came to, dealing with enemy tanks. They're basically here because of tactics. I know it's very cheaty, but I want you to look this thing dead in the muzzle and say, this belongs lower on the tier list, and then survive the wrath of the Finns. You do not want the wrath of the Finns. There's a reason they have the most deadly sniper in history.
Hmm.
Welcome to a land down under.
No climbing on tank. Injuries may occur. Oh, I can't get. I know the M3 is good, but I just can't get over how ugly it looks. And that bulge, which I forgot what it's for. I know it has a reason though, because of Australia's temperature or something like that.
Okay. This entire debacle is entirely Australia's ego. Maybe they felt like their this was a bit too small. Basically, they only really had to contend with Hagos and like other Japanese tanks, and really anything will do. But they were uh not offered British tanks because they were needed all at home. And even a bit later when they were offered uh M3
M3s.
Lees, despite them being totally in the Pacific, they considered them outdated and really wanted Shermans, although they would eventually give up and accept the Lees. So they made this. Do you remember what this tank is called?
Which one? No, I don't remember what it's called. It looks British though, but it's not British style.
It's the AC Sentinel. It was originally supposed to be
Oh, the
equipped
Sentinel.
with a 6-pounder, but was only equipped with a 2-pounder before the project was cancelled. It was actually pretty decent, like a better Cruiser 4. Also, do you want the explanation for why it's shaped like this?
Yeah.
It's just the most efficient way to make a cast machine gun covering. It just so happens to look like that. I will not say what that is for monetization purposes. I know we're not monetized yet, but I want to be in the future, including this episode. So, we're working to getting B tier Land Down Under. Land Down Under, though, you're about to get overshadowed. Also,
What
sorry,
is
copyright
that?
Gene, Mitch, CRY, I didn't realize this photo was copyright in time. So if you do ask, and if you look on screen and see a giant black, just like square here, he contacted me and asked me to take it down. Assuming he doesn't notice or doesn't care, I would have chosen a different image if I noticed in time for the record. Well, to explain this, I got to explain this first. Do you notice anything different compared to a normal Sherman?
Gun looks a bit big, but besides that, I don't really notice much.
That's because I stretched the image. This.
Oh, it's a weird sprocket. Looks more efficient.
That's how you can tell that this is a Canadian-made Sherman. Canadian-made Shermans are called Sherman Grizzlies.
Hmm.
Hey, won't you look at that? Won't you look at that? It's the
That
same.
looks like an American sprocket.
No, this is a Canadian sprocket.
Oh, it looks different.
Oh, I forgot to mute myself during that cough. I'm Canadian. I'm supposed to represent my country better, and I forgot to mute my cough. Anyways, can you... This is basically a Canadian-made Sherman with, modifications. For example, in the hull, it has the, machine gun from... I originally called it from a, Crusader, but now that I'm looking at it, it more looks like it's from a Lee, actually. But a small hull machine gun turret, and a different turret, its actual turret, with a 6-pounder gun. This tank is called the Ram 2.
Really does
If you're
look like an
curious what the
off-brand Sherman.
Ram... If you're curious what the Ram 1 was, they were not able to get enough 6-pounder guns in time, so some had to be equipped with 2-pounders. Those were referred to as Ram 1s. I don't think the Ram 2, or 1 for that matter, ever saw service, but this is a homegrown, proud Canadian tank. We also produced a lot of other vehicles, primarily British designs, like the Valentine. And I know it's not a tank, but this is the
I
Kangaroo Armored Personnel Carrier, which is basically just a ram with the turret and turret parts removed.
think that's an effective way to use your extra hulls.
Yep, Kangaroo APC, because I think I may have messed up the name first time. This is the Kangaroo Armored Personnel Carrier. Alright, for each of these next two, we only have one in each. Reveal A tier, it's Czechoslovakia with 1 salt. Right. Looks like I will note for the script here, I literally have a copy pasta, so bear with me because I didn't edit it beforehand. Czechoslovakia. I will be picking number 17. Build a tank with this, Middle European country. Czechoslovakia. Rather than giving you, one attempt, I'm going to give you until 1938. But instead of waiting till 1938, I have Germany, about that far away, who will be running and screaming towards you. Do you understand the instructions as I've explained them? Yeah, but how many chances do you have? You only have one shot. Your time is up. Oh my god. Oh. Oh my. Ah, I forgot to mute again. As the famous streamer once said, oh my god, wow, Doug, you did it! You won! This is the Panzer 38T. Ironically enough, on slide 38. I would say what the Czechs called it, but I forgot what the Czechs called it, so I'm using the German definition, or German designation. Did I kill you? Was that too much?
It looks like another BT7 ripoff, but probably came before the BT7.
It's also way better. This tank is so good, Germany produced it till its final days. It is really good. It's fast, it has good armor, it has a good gun, it has a nice number of crew, well balanced. It's anything and everything you could want out of a light tank. That was short. But hey, there's someone missing. A major power missing. Please tell me who's in S tier.
I'm guessing you're gonna put America there.
It's the USA, and this is an S rank. This is Sherman rank with 1 salt. Alright, to explain why this is so good, I'm going to explain the American medium tank line. You start off with the M2. We don't talk about the M2, it wasn't that good. I forgot Discord had a soundboard.
Me too.
So, they upgraded it to the Lee. Oi, the Lee wasn't that bad. It was a good stopgap, really good in Burma. It's underrated. And then, whoop, spoilers. I'm disrespecting my home country with that. Then you have the peak, the M4 Sherman 75. But they're like, hey, we could do better than a 75. And some of these tanks are starting to get heavier. Meet the M4 Sherman 76.
Is that the Sherman Jumbo, or is that not quite it yet? Because it looks like it's a similar turret mantlet.
This is not a Sherman Jumbo. This is just a normal Sherman 76. This is as close to perfection as you can get. There's also the M24 Pershing, which came in very late in the war in 1945, but managed to successfully 1v1 a Panther on film.
On film?
On film. Let's move on to the lights. We of course have the M3A1, which was decent in North Africa, and killer in the Pacific. Killer in the Pacific, and decent in North Africa. What womp womp is there about that? Then you have the M5A1, which is just an improved Stuart. And then you have the best light tank of the war, the M24 Chaffee. One of the
Wasn't that one
reasons
famous
why...
for having a really bad shot trap, though?
Yes. But if you bring your attention to the gun, that gun is the same as this gun. The Sherman 75. in a light tank. Basically, they made a version of the gun for aircraft, and then they put the aircraft version in a light tank. So it's a light tank with the firepower of a medium, which is absurd. And would you please read the arrow pointing to it?
Used until about half a decade ago. That's pretty recent, actually.
Yeah, the last Chaffies were retired from frontline service by, I think, Uruguay, maybe it was Argentina, in 2018 or 19. Maybe it was 2017.
That's
So
surprising
this
considering it's a
has,
World War II tank.
and it's still in secondary service in places like Africa. This has one of the longest service lives of any tank in history. Only really rivaled by the T54. But of course, we also have more honorable mention vehicles. Do you know what this is?
Nope. Is that an armored car?
Yes, this is the M8 Greyhound. Do you want to know what this tank successfully 1v1'd once?
What?
Not a panther, not a tiger, but a king tiger. A Königstiger. An
Oh,
M8 Greyhound successfully 1v1'd and won, I want to clarify, a Tiger 2 King Tiger.
the crew must have been sweating really hard for that to actually happen.
And well, my favorite is the Staghound. That unfortunately did not make the cut. Unlike this next vehicle, do you know the name of this classic beast?
Wait, which one is it? The one below or the one to the right? That one? It looks like a British Sherman.
Huh? No. Let me give you a hint. Erstaz.
Oh,
That was your hint. Erstaz. I know you know what
no,
that is.
can't
We
get it.
talked about it earlier on.
I don't recognize it. Wait.
This is the M10 Wolverine.
Oh, from the angle, I couldn't tell it was a Wolverine. I'm used to the rear view, not the front view.
This is an American tank destroyer built on the Sherman chassis, uh, which was very popular with its crews to the point when the next tank destroyer came up, they didn't want to give up their vehicles. Speaking of,
That's an M18.
yep, M18 Hellcat. This is a small, fast, and light tank destroyer, great for hit and runs. And these next two vehicles aren't tanks, but especially the first one is so influential it would be a crime not to put it on, because this vehicle specifically was listed along with the bazooka and I think a couple other things as one of the tools that won the US the war.
Is that like an old Humvee with a lot of guns on it?
This is a Willys Jeep. Ironically enough, not made by Jeep, but two companies. I can't remember one of them, but the other is Ford.
Interesting.
And this, I'm not even going to leave it up to you guessing. This is an M3 half-track. Half-tracks mostly immediately disappeared after the war, but during the war they were fairly popular, especially as anti-aircraft vehicles. And this is the final tier list. Tell me what you agree with, what you disagree with, where you would rank these countries yourself. And please actively fight me in the comments. It drives up engagement. What's your opinion on the list, by the way?
I think most of the decisions are pretty fair, with one or two exceptions, but most of it I think is pretty well done.
What are the exceptions you're talking about? I'm curious.
I will say, since the Czechoslovakia didn't really do much, the Germans end up using most of their tanks, I think they should go on the same tier. And I don't know if the USSR should be that low, because the USSR did kind of scare the Germans into making good tanks.
Yeah. But they also scared them into making a lot of bad tanks, too.
Well, still, they were scared enough to make those mistakes.
True. Anyways, please have a brawl in the comments about these rankings. And now it's time for viewer mail time. If you have any viewer mail, please send it to this email which I'm circling right now, radicalsaturdaypod@gmail.com. Unfortunately, we have got no new viewer mail. So I'm going to have to resort to the personal anecdote again. To those who may not know, I am an Eagle Scout. But this, minus the data expunged, was taken back when I was a star rank. The story I'm going to talk about, I was especially with the vibe this podcast is going for. But I had to put a personal anecdote out because we didn't get audience ones yet, and this was a good story option. Plus, it's a true story, which is a plus. But now it's time for the adverts. Please subscribe to AJ1700's and
Blades YT.
we are also considering making a published like digital like text. I'm having a bad way of describing this, but making this podcast also a digital publication if you wanted to basically read what you're hearing right now. Uh this is exclusively so our stuff can be picked up on uh whatchamacallit, anti-plagiarism software, because anti-plagiarism software can't actually detect YouTube videos. Hello? Blazing?
Sure.
Alright. Also, next episode still won't be on search and rescue. Instead, we have a very special guest host, and we're going to be talking about a very special topic. We're going to be talking about the turtle submarine. Make sure to be there and to meet the very special and famous guest host. You're not going to say anything?
Nope. That's all I got.
Alright. Remember, battle us to the death in the comments over the tier list. Bye!